Oh, I'm coming out the snake pit for this. King Jareer in your ear. I'm so fit I don't fit in. And this is a chaos edition, not a cave edition. Here we have a dark-skinned Caucasian in Somalia, known as a Somalian. What's the malignant core? A dark-skinned Caucasians or dark pale, dark whites. All you look for is the lip-terine slender nose as well as the obtuse angled face, the stern jaw, as well as the orosnostic straight jaw profile with the lice-infested hair, this gillic hair. Ethiopia is second overall in head lice internationally, for the record. So remember, all Afro-Asiatics have a lip-terine nose as well as Caucasians, but sometimes their nose is defined as aquiline, that means eagle-like. Yes, aquiline, hooked or prominent noses appear in Africa, though often studied in contrast to broader noses as local climate adaptations, with narrow noses linked to drier climates like Europe, Asia, and wider ones to humid ones like Africa. So remember, this dry climate, narrow nose is in Europe and Asia type situation. It says, however, genetic studies show a selection on nasal genes globally, and this feature exists across various African ethnic groups, especially in, which is capped because it's in specific, and it's Asiatics, and it's all milk drinkers, Tutsis, Fulanis, Bedouins, Berbers. So in North Africa and the Horn of Africa, remember, diverse means different. So reflecting diverse ancestries and adaptations rather than a single African nose type. Because their nose is associated with Caucasians. An African nose is a wide nose. Climate adaptation. Traditional view suggests, this view, broader noses for humidifying dry air in hot climates, Africa, and narrow noses for warming cold, dry air, Europe and Asia. But human migration, diverse ancestry is complicated thing. Complicated. Mind you, they come into Africa. That's what complicates. They invade. We see, look, associated with Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, European population, aquiline noses are present in North Africa, Berbers, Egyptians in the Horn of Africa, Somalis, Ethiopians, and East Africa. It's called the Roman/aquiline nose. Aquiline means eagle-like, but hence the word Rome. Rome, wander, roaming around, wanderers. There's a nomadic wanderers, a Roman, roams. Historical misinterpretation. In racist pseudoscience, the aquiline nose was wrongly used to mark nobility or superiority. Hello. Ego, Saladin, angels, Nephilims. Look, here we have a Somali myth dealing with cave and birds. So remember, they got a bird nose and they got a cave connection. Looking into the caves of Somalia and Ethiopia, where they dwell to hide when they first sought refuge in Africa. In them caves, building them caves, knuckle walking all up in them caves. Again, their nose type is called lip-terine. They have small nose, small lips ratio. We have wide nose, wide lips ratio, regardless of being albino. So it's not a color thing, it's the skull structure, it's your skeletal structure. So whether you light, dark, pink, blue, or clear, even if we couldn't see you, you can feel the shape of a wide nose, so you can feel it. Narrow noses on the Arab man as well as on Paul Kagame. Double Caucasian gang. That's why they have Brahmin Indian Barack Obama, who's a Gillic, changing the names, because once you change the names, you can change locations, or you can be confused by locations. As we see the ethno map of 1500s says Negro. On the outside you see malignant core. Malignant core means dark skinned Caucasian, and here you have the area. Here you have the Khoisan, all dwelling in the deserts, dry climates. We go to skull types. All Caucasians has a Caucasoid skull type. You see this slender jaw? That's the stern jaw. All of Caucasians, all Afro-Asiatics and Indo-European have Caucasian skull because they have Caucasian ancestry. We have a wider, robust face. Our skull type is Congoid. Their skull type is Caucasoid. So the whole Afro-Asiatic skull type is Caucasoid. Black people skull type is Congoid. Congoid is interchangeable with Negroid, for those who don't know. So Australians have their own skull. They're defined as orange, as well as their Gillics. They have wavy hair, lice infestations, dwell in deserts, and have a rich cave history. They're defined as yellow. They don't have lice, but they have epicampic fold of the East Asian, as well as a rich desert history, as well as a cave history. Both of this is just double cave in its entirety. Also, when we go to the Pernoptus under the dictionary definition, it says Australian Pernoptus skull, African Pernoptus skull, European skull, orthognostic. So remember, these skulls are orthognostic. When we get to diving into genetics, there is no East African genetics, there's no North African genetics, there's no South African genetics. Because when they trace the genetics, they go back to West Africa. Everything else, their genetics, you either Northern European or East Asian. And we see narrow faces and narrow jaws and curly hair. We got wide noses, full lips, and woolly hair. That's how we know. This we go into the West African. Everything else is Gillic and Shimatri and Liatri coming out them caves. Let's run the gauntlet. Also, one thing about people being indigenous to Africa, you check the rivers. The word Negro comes from the word Niger. So we have Niger River, Negro, Black River, West Africa. But at least with this situation, the Nilotic did connect to the river, but you got a Bible situation. You got a biblical origin. That's how we know you cave. That's how you got some type of Eurasian milk drinking admixture going on. Let's run the gauntlet. You see it's in the green. They in the desert. So how are you Nilotic if it's only a West African gene? So that means a Nilotic would have to be a West African if they're playing the African game. To play the African game, you have to be West African. That's the only genetic. Sorry. Notice that there ain't no Khoisan's named after no river. The Kushite not named after the river, nor the Bedouin, nor the Berber. So remember, the Negro word comes from Niger. That's Latin. Also, they put the oldest gene in Congo. That's still in our E1B1A. They E1B1B. That's what Caucasians are as well. See right here, you have E1B1B. Meditate is Mediterranean, the Mediterranean race. Also, the SLC light skin gene, which is a recent gene that come into Africa. So remember, where the genes is at, look, where the oldest genes is at, ancient, ancestral, is where the E1B1A is at. Wide nose, woolly hair. We're not nomadic pastorals nor milk drinkers. Remember, the milk drinking gene is Northern European. All E1B1B resides in dry climates. Look, it's cold down there. It's a little cold up in the mountains, and these are dry climates. Remember, a desert is sand and snow. See, we are all up in the tropical rainforest regions. Humidity. Also, when we go to biome, we go to hot tropical. So we at the bottom left. Their shit go to cold to dry. Look, cold, dry. They have no wetness. There's no vegetation. It's dry as fuck. You see what I'm saying? So remember, their biome is cave to desert. Cave to desert. Even when we go to the black is the water game. The water is the black. It's called the rainforest. Rain is water. We see that the Kushite has Cushitic ancestry, and they mention this orthognostic jaw. And then Nilotic has Negro ancestry. He's Pronoptus. So when we get to the Pronoptus, that's the Australian and the African, and the European is orthognostic. So this guy, this Cushitic ancestry, is orthognostic ancestry, which is European ancestry. Also, remember, we talked about forests and rainforests and deserts. They say rainforests are generally considered older ecosystem than a desert. So you are a desert dweller since coming out the cave, but your ecosystem still ain't older than our ecosystem coming from your cave kind. So remember, your cave kind wrote this. So when we get to the African skull, it's a wide nasal aperture, nasal guttering, and pronoptism with the woolly hair game. That's with BR ubiquity. They come in with the nasal still, the narrow nose aperture, and orthognosticism. So it's a whole flip, it's a whole opposite. Negroid physical traits such as broad facial features, pronoptism, afro-textured hair. Look, they're usually not regarded as Negro, but instead as dark Caucasoids, Hamites, Ethiopian, Arabs, Australoids. Dark Caucasoids. Afro head texture is tightly coiled, kinky hair. It is ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means universal trait among Negroid populations. Ubiquity, present, apparent, or found everywhere. So it doesn't matter where we at or what climate. It's genetics produce genetics. Wide nose produce wide nose. Again, these Afro-Asiatics, these malignocroids, fall under something called Symatria. They're in the same family as the Australian, Dravidian, and other cave babies. Look at this, pre-Dravidian. You're a dark group. So remember, they come with their own melanin, pheomelanin. They are dark red. You are Symatria malignocroid. Has nothing to do with us. We fall into Eulatriae. So remember, black people are Eulatriae. Everything else is a Symatriae or Liatriae. You see what I'm saying? And this is for educational purposes. This may ruffle some feathers and shake up some caves. We're going to part 2 this. We're going to expose the cave, the lice.